Hello, welcome to another podcast episode of Fix Your Crown through NERDS Inc. I am Matthew Feiler, your host for today. I am so excited to be here. NERDS Inc. is a wonderful organization that promotes equality and serving underprivileged communities, and they have been founded by the CEO and founder of the organization, Dr. Tristica McCray. I am so excited to be here today with our guest of this podcast, Lindsey Turnbull. So a little bit about Lindsey. She is the founder of MissHeard Media for the past number of years. In this company, she empowers tween and teen girls around the country as well as internationally, and empowering them so that they could be heard and giving them the confidence that they need to be successful in life. She was in a lot of those girls' shoes and sort of wants to help them reach the other side just like she did. She allows girls to do this through blogs. She also has a lot of video posts that she posts on social media and does a lot of programs and hosting different events as well, especially before the whole COVID situation. And she went to the University of Central Florida, and in 2018, she was recognized as somebody on the list of the school's 30 under 30 alumni list. And I've also been able to look up some of her videos, and I've been really impressed with her work, and it was nice chatting before. So Lindsey, thank you so much for being on this podcast and being willing to do this today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, Matthew. I am very excited to be here, and that was quite the intro. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you on, and everything you're doing with MissHeard Media seems so great. And yeah, I am super excited to get to know a little bit more about you and the work that you pursue.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to tell you.
Awesome. So my first question for you is, how did you learn or know about NERDS Inc. or get to know Dr. Tristica McCray, who is the founder of NERDS Inc.?
This is kind of like a chicken and egg with Tristica and NERDS, but I don't remember which I started following first, but it was through Instagram. When I started the Instagram profile for MissHeard Media, it was like suggested people, or I was like looking through hashtags or something, and I thought she was really cool and like really pretty and really interesting. So I followed her, and we've kind of kept up with one another ever since.
That's awesome. I know we were talking about before, it's so wonderful that, especially in this digital age of technology, to be able to find people who have similar passions and are, pursuing similar goals in life with, organizations and company, and that you were just able to meet her, through social media and be inspired by her work. And I know she's inspired by your work. This is why we are having you today. And it's so wonderful.
Yay. Yeah. Social media is great. Like, it's really allows all of us to connect in ways that weren't possible when I was a teenager. So of course that presents like its own challenges, but overall, I think it's a net positive in the ways that we can connect and share ideas and knowledge.
Yeah. And I'm sure, especially like with you working with girls, the technology and media, that could be a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. So probably that's something you touch upon, I would assume.
There's a lot. I talk a lot about social media, not just for teenagers, but also with parents and how they can help their teenager navigate social media and like use it responsibly, because it's a tool like anything else, right? And we have to learn how to use our tools in a way that is productive and helpful.
Yeah. Wonderful. So first is a little bit of background about you. I want to get to know your sort of reasons for starting MissHeard Media. And also I know that you were a founding member of the Young Women's Leader Program at the University of Central Florida. So could you talk maybe a little bit about that work and that background, and maybe how that experience allowed you to create this company of yours?
Yeah, so actually the story of the Young Women Leaders Program and the founding of MissHeard are kind of the same story. I saw a flyer in college for the Young Women Leaders Program that they needed mentors, and I'd kind of been like in not a good place. So I went to the interview and I signed up, and it was like probably one of the most pivotal experiences I had in my 4 years of college. I was a Big Sister mentor. I became a group facilitator and eventually a coordinator for the program. And I loved the work. I loved working with the young women. Like, it I learned so much from that program, not just about young people, but about myself and my leadership style and the struggles that young people went through, and to look at some of the struggles I went through, to watch young women go through it, but with more distance, was like really enlightening. And I always thought that one day I would go back to doing that work. I thought that, once I finished graduate school and I like worked in my dream career for a while, and I would volunteer with young women, and one day when I retired or I was like more stable, I was going to go back and work with young women again. But kind of like I told you when we were talking earlier, I graduated into a recession, and I graduated into massive budget cuts and hiring freezes. And while I was looking for jobs, I kept kind of coming back to working with young women. It was like, what does the world need? What am I really good at? What can I be happy doing? And that was how MissHeard Media was formed. Just out of like my love and enjoyment and passion for working with this age group. It was like kind of an opportunity from the universe, just not quite the one that I had expected.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool that sometimes you don't know what, life's going to hand you, or what sort of you could create with life, or, your assets and talents. And and that you were able to sort of take everything with like your experience going out of like graduating, and sort of there not being, the economy and kind of being strange, and sort of also finding that you're passionate about, and sort of mixing those two is, a nice direction that you were able, and look, where it brought you. So that's really wonderful. I guess my next question for you is, was there anybody or any other organizations or any, things in your personal life that sort of motivated you or sort of led you to have an interest in helping others, specifically the population you work with, which is tween and teen girls? Or was it just sort of something of a personal experience more so that led you to this point in your life?
When I initially joined the Young Women Leaders program, I was really looking for just any like volunteer opportunity. But what attracted me to that program in particular was the idea of having like a community of women, right? Because it was a mentoring program, so all the college mentors would meet. And that part really appealed to me. It wasn't so much working with that age group that appealed to me per se, just that it was like a volunteer opportunity and that I would get to make a lot of new friends. My college was massive. It's one of the biggest colleges in the country, or it might be the biggest. It's number one or number two. And it was difficult and challenging for me to make friends. And so that was what really appealed to me initially. But the more I did the work, the more I saw my struggles reflected in their struggles. And the more I realized that I had a lot in common with these young women, and that I had been through a lot of the same situations that they had. And when it came to founding MissHeard, I realized that like I really could have benefited from someone with the knowledge that I had gained. And ultimately, I wanted to create the program and to be that person that could have helped me when I was younger. Because it is a hard time. It's a hard time for everybody. Those like middle school, high school years, it's challenging for everybody. And I had additional challenges that other people did not have. And I really could have used a mentor. And so I wanted to become that person.
That's so wonderful. And I thank you for sort of, being able to give back a little bit, or not even giving back because you never experienced that, sort of seeing that missing component and sort of filling it, which is so wonderful. And I thought for my own personal life, I went to a day camp growing up, and I didn't like it because I was never really a sports kid. I was always like the last person to be picked on a team, and it just wasn't for me. And I ended up finding theater, and then sort of, got into the podcasting world after that. But I went back. I have a younger brother who's 10 years younger than me, and he started going to the camp that I didn't enjoy going to, and I needed to do something a few summers that he started going there. My mom was like, how about you work at the camp? And I was like, no, I hated it as a camper. Why would I go back? And she's like, you'll be fine. Just give it a try. And then I ended up really liking it because I gave those campers the experience, and I got to be that type of counselor at camp. And I understand camp and like that arena is very different than what you're doing, and it's your work is a lot more intense, and that's what you've created a career out of. I was just for a few months out of the summer, but that really spoke to me because I had a similar sort of, I guess, like recognition of something.
Every young person needs someone that they can relate to, and like you didn't have that person at your camp, and so you became that person for the other kids that like weren't super sporty or were more into arts or theater, and so that's awesome. Like that's really admirable.
Thank you. So fast forward a little bit. So you sort of found this passion, then you created your company. So what did that look like, especially being sort of a self-entrepreneur, self-starter? And at one point, was it in your career that you sort of was like, this is what I really, want to do, or this is what I want to sort of build and keep going forward with?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because when I initially started MissHeard, I was like, well, I still want to get like a job, like a 9-to-5 in my field, which is history. I went to school for history. I really wanted to work in a museum. So I was like, well, I'll just kind of do this while I apply for jobs. And, the more time went on, the more I was like, okay, this industry is really not coming back. Like I need to really consider that this is what I'm going to do. And it was kind of natural. Like the more I kind of dug into the work and started meeting with other young women, the more I became committed to doing this work and continuing this business. I don't want to say I did it totally by myself, because I did not. My family was incredibly supportive, both with their time and money, like seed money to build a website and to kind of get things set up, like registering as a business and things like that. So I don't want to say like, oh, I did it all myself, because that's not true. I want to be totally honest and upfront about that. But really, the more I did the work and the more I do the work, the more my passion for it grows. So even when things were challenging, like even when I lost like my entire website, like everything gone, emails, blog posts, like contact, everything was gone. Like that was kind of one of the moments where I was like, do I do something else? And it was not easy, but ultimately I was like, no, this is what I want to do. So I have to rebuild. This is my passion. This is what I want to do. Like, this is my, I guess, my calling or my whatever, but this is what I have to do. And I'm going to rebuild. And ever since then, I have been like so dedicated and single-mindedly focused on doing this work.
That is so wonderful to hear. And yeah, I think sometimes even like our, things that seem like barriers could sometimes even like, allow us to come back better and stronger. That's I'm sorry that happened to you, and that's technology. We were just talking about this also before, like technology could be like your best friend or your worst enemy, at times, but yeah.
It was truly a bizarre situation, and I went through like all the stages of grief, and like I cried, I bargained, I was angry, I cried some more, and finally I was like, all right, I can fix this, and then we can move forward. Like, that's it. This is what we're doing. And then once I made that decision, I just had to do it. The decision is the hard part. Doing it is the easy part.
Yeah, that does make sense. So my next question for you is, so what MissHeard Media is you empower, tweens and teen girls, and you just mentioned before that is a hard stage of life, sort of figuring out who you are and your passions and sort of what you want to do with maybe the rest of your life, or there's friend problems, there it's a very competitive, very self-identification time in people's lives. What is it like, sort of, especially that you had mentioned that you sort of were in a lot of these, like you hear a lot of stories, sort of the stories you try to empower your audience with. What is it like sort of being in that boat, and then now sort of standing in front of these girls, sort of being a facilitator, being an advisor, being a counselor to them? What is it like to, so two things. One, what is it like to stand up and sort of be that person? Like, do you like sort of doing that? Was it a curve you sort of had to learn to be comfortable speaking in front of people and motivating people? It's, it takes a lot to do that, and for people to believe in that motivation, especially with that experience. What is it like now doing the work?
So doing the work, it's funny because you were telling me about your background in theater. Is I also have not nearly as extensive of a theater background, but I also have a little bit of a theater background. And so the least scary part for me is actually standing up and talking to people. I am a weirdo who really likes public speaking. Like I'm a super introvert. Like I don't want to talk to anybody after that, but the performance part of public speaking, I really like. Doing the work now, and I mean, I really try to tell myself like that I want to put the advice out there for young people to show them that they can make it through, and that these things that feel so huge, the friend drama and all that just feels so huge, that in a couple that they can make it through. That life is so much bigger than those things that we experience when we're 12, 13, 14, 17. It doesn't seem like it at the time, but that there's a whole big, beautiful world out there that's waiting for them, that needs them to be in it. And I want to show them what that can look like. It doesn't have to be the way I do it. It can be, the way they do it. But no matter who they are or where they're from, that they have something that's really important and valuable to contribute. And so if me standing up and I'm big arms, like really loud, like I do voices, it's a whole thing. But if that's what it takes so that they can see that there is a possibility and there is a place for them, then that's what needs to be done. That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you for that. And yeah, I think it's very easy to see life through your own lens and be like, oh, I'm in high school, so this is what life is, and it is, because that's their perspective and that's what they're going through. But sometimes I struggled through high school so much, and I had really great like K through 8 education and experience, and I transferred schools for high school, and it was just really hard, and I had to commute to school, and socially it was really hard. And then I got to college and I was like, oh, here I go again. But like it ended up being really wonderful. And then like after you graduate, you sort of see the world in even new perspective and way, sort of when you sort of find your own way and your own schedule even more so. So yeah, I think that's wonderful that you sort of do that and get that perspective, and hopefully it helps them, which it seems it does, which is wonderful.
I hope so. I was joking with one of the young people I talk to regularly. It's like, this is going to be my new brand. Like, I'm just going to give you that advice that your mom gives you that like you don't listen to, but you're going to listen to it from me. So it's like, oh, that person isn't good enough for you. If they don't text you, then don't text them, and like drink water and wash your hands. Like all that parent advice. Like this is essentially, that's a lot of what I do, is like giving sage life advice that you don't want to listen to from your parents, but like from another voice and another perspective.
It's easier sometimes to listen to other people than your parents who are kind of hard on you, and right. So for you, I'm curious, and this is something that our founder of NERDS Inc., Dr. Trisica McCrae, so just thinking about, and really even her whole team, she constantly brings this idea of self-care, and it's so important generally, but especially during COVID, when people are home and you're not getting the same social experiences you did and interactions you did before that, and people sort of figuring out, should I go out, should I not, am I going back to school, am I not, am I doing this, am I doing that? How do you, especially you deal with, a lot of people, and you probably, deal with a lot of narratives and a lot of, things that probably weighs on you a little bit, or maybe just sort of giving people all that energy that you need to feed to people. How do you, at the end of the day, sort of give yourself that self-care, that ability to sort of take it easy and say, okay, I need to do this for me too?
The question of self-care in the pandemic is a really good one. And kind of like I mentioned to you, I am such a homebody introvert. This is honestly the best I've mentally felt in a really long time. I know that's definitely not everyone's experience, and I know a lot of people are struggling. And I mean, that's not to say that I don't struggle. Like I still live with anxiety and depression. So there's still struggles that I face. I try to make sure I go to this fitness class that's like 4 days a week. It's super intense. It's outside. There's a big hill we run up over and over and over again. I try to do that, like get all the brain chemicals going, like do something with my body. I read a lot, listen to music, I write, like I hang out with my dog and my boyfriend. We've been taking a lot of walks with the dog because we're in a county that was very heavily affected by COVID. So there's not a whole lot else to do, really. Yeah. And of course, I text my friends. I text them all the time. I'm like a firm believer in community and that us taking care of each other is how we're going to make it through. So I try to check on like someone every couple days at least. And, we talk, and that's like a big part of my self-care is like nurturing my friendships and my relationships with the people that I love and care about.
And hopefully you get it back also, and that you are willing to care for others is something I think we all need to sort of remember this time. It's something that Dr. Trista McCrae always talks about, sort of finding support if you need it, but especially now. But sort of a lot of people also don't realize, like, you're home with your family, so have more time to sort of talk to them and get to know them, which maybe you wouldn't otherwise, or friends like your neighbors, things like that, people down, the street that maybe in your busy life you don't get to sort of interact with, and just wonderful that we were able to talk about that, because it's a good reminder that people definitely need to keep in the back of their heads, or even in the front of their heads, I guess now with sort of everything. So my next question, especially that you work with this population of tweens and teenagers, so I guess that'd be what, like 11, 12 to like 18?
Like kind of 12 to 17, 18, somewhere in there.
Cool. So for that population, and especially that you sort of had these experiences, if you got to talk to yourself back then, which is a lot of the, the girls that you now work with, sort of when you were, that stage of your life that you're focusing on, if you got to sort of go back to yourself, is there any advice that you'd maybe give yourself that maybe other girls who are listening to this, who are in that sort of age range right now, might be able to learn from, or sort of launch themselves from there?
Oh my gosh, I have so much wisdom for my younger self. I'll keep it short, and I will say that one, you are a warrior and you do need some mental health treatment. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you any less of a good person or a smart person or a whatever person. Go get some therapy, girl. Number two, I would say that like other girls are not your competition, which is something I learned in my 20s that I wish I had learned as a teenager. And probably that your relationships with your friends and the people you care about are going to be more valuable to you than that guy you think is really cool. He is not cool. Don't go out with him. I feel like a lot of young women need to hear that. A lot of young people need to hear that. Like that guy or that person that you're like obsessed with, maybe think about that a little bit.
Just because the TV show or movie sort of telling you to do that doesn't mean that that's the right.
Right, they do, and a lot of TV and movies and even on social media, like it looks like that, every couple is a happy couple as long as you're smiling, you're happy, and everyone's so in love, and like that's just not the reality. Yeah. Like not every relationship is how it appears on TV, and just because it's on TV and movies and social media doesn't mean that it is like the be all end all of things that you should aspire to do and to have.
Yeah. And I know we were talking about this before, but especially with social media, it's so great that you could connect with people and sort of, if you have friends from all over the world, or, you travel and you meet people and sort of stay connected, or even just family members who maybe live further away. But that also social media could sort of like, oh, why wasn't I in that group chat, or that FOMO, like fear of missing out, like I wasn't invited to that hangout, or this is happening and I need to be this way, or I saw this post and it seems like I need to, like do something else, or something's wrong with me. Like I feel like a lot of times with social media that could really get, especially to that vulnerable population of girls, it could really get to the worst of them, and it shouldn't.
It does. There's definitely like a positive of social media, right? It's like we said, you can connect and share knowledge and keep up. Like I've gone and visited friends of mine from social media in other countries and had like the best time. But there's also like, when I was growing up, we might compare ourselves to TV and movies and magazines. And now you're comparing yourself to every single person that has social media. And it's a much different pressure, and it is a huge pressure. And it can be really hard, especially when you're young, to take a step back and remember that it's not always real. Even even your friends, your best friend's social media, like she's still only showing the world what she wants the world to see, not necessarily the realities of their day-to-day life. And also that the FOMO sucks. Like I still get that. Like I'm grown and I still get FOMO sometimes when I see like, oh, a screenshot of a Zoom call. And it's like, well, I know those people. Why wasn't I in that Zoom call? And we just have to stop and remind ourselves, like, you know, that it's usually not personal. Sometimes things just work out that way and it's not about us or like, oh, we're going to leave her out. Ha, 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 ha. That things just happen. And like next time, make your own call and invite those people that, you know, you feel like you missed out on. Like we can be proactive about it too and not just like we can go home and tell ourselves like, oh, it's okay, you know, they probably didn't mean to leave me out, like maybe it was spontaneous and it just happened, and then decide to be proactive and be like, oh, well, I'm going to set up a call with these people and, you know, we'll do that and it'll be great, and it's okay that I didn't go to that one because we're going to have another one and that one's going to be great. So you can do both kind of, but it definitely presents a unique challenge to young people today.
Yeah, so it'd be that role model, and so it'd be, you know, like I'm gonna, you know, not let that sort of take to the best of me and my mindset. And yeah, that was just like a little bit of insight of sort of what you do and the empowerment that you give. Like I'm, you know, I'm sure that you could really help people, and that's really, you know, wonderful to sort of, you know, be in their shoes and give them that spin instead of like being upset about it. Like how could I sort of grow and be bigger and better going forward. My next question for you is, so everybody's in this like really weird COVID stage, you know, right now, and you know, should I go back to school? Should I not? My parents want me to go back to school. Should I not? Like, or do they not want me to? Or should I see my friends? Should I not? You know, especially for, you know, the girl population ages that you sort of work with. What do you want to tell them right now at this sort of all these question marks?
I want to tell all the young people today that are like really struggling with all of these COVID related questions is that, one, this is not forever. I know it feels like it's never going to end. I get it. I feel that way too sometimes. The reality is this is not going to be forever. And to just remind yourself, right, each day is a new day, and each day we get closer to finding some kind of solution. And it's not going to be like this for the rest of our lives. And my next thing that I would tell these young people is that whatever decision you and your family make is the right decision for you. There are a lot of factors that go into whether or not you should go back to school or not go back to school or start on college campuses. Not just personal factors, but like money and childcare and all of these things are like an issue. And so whatever decision you and your family decide, that is the right decision.
Yeah, it's easy to sort of, based on what the news is telling you and social media again, or what your other people are telling you, and there's a lot of different opinions and a lot of different, you know, messages sort of being sent to you. But yeah, you need to sort of believe in what feels right. It seems like, and yeah.
Yeah, because there's no uniform response. Like it varies from state to state, even from county to county. So because we don't have like a uniform solution or a uniform plan and everyone's on their own, then fine, whatever decision you make, that is the best one. Like I trust that you and your family are making the best decisions for you.
Yeah, I think that's very true and good for people to hear. And I thank you for sharing that. And so I know when we were chatting, like initially you had mentioned that you are working on a project for parents, and you also have an ebook that you are sort of working on. So could you elaborate a little bit more on those two projects?
Sure. So this parent course, I'm super excited. I have taught this like 1 hour parent seminar for a couple of years. And I was like, this is so much information. I'm going to make it into a whole like course and really expand on it. And I'm working on that right now. Super exciting. I'm really proud of it. It's like the culmination of all of my years of working with young people and all of the books I have read, which is a lot because that is my jam. So I'm really excited about that. And also I re-released this year the Unleash Your Girl Power ebook, which I'm also incredibly proud of. And it's like kind of a how-to guide. It's got a lot of journal prompts. It's got like sage big sister advice from me, your forever big sister. about how to really like discover who you are and unleash the power that you already have inside of you. And it's like really a journey to get to know yourself, because the more you know yourself and the more comfortable you are with yourself, the more powerful you can really be.
So wonderful projects both for the girls, but also for the parents to sort of understand their, daughters' experiences, sort of help that you're helping, on both ends to sort of make things work out with relationships and family is quite cool. I'm sure educators could even learn from that. Also, that parent course. Obviously, the ebook is more, I guess for the tweens and teen girls you work with, but the parent project, that pipeline project, sort of could help a lot of people who also are in a similar position to you.
I think as we get older, we kind of, unless you are surrounded by young people that are not your child every day, you kind of forget what that looks like. What it was like to be 12 and in middle school. And also they have added pressures that we didn't have, right? Like the 24-hour news cycle is not something I grew up with. Social media is not really something I grew up with. And even when I did use social media, it was still on the computer, on the dial-up internet, like not something I carried around in my pocket. So it's a little bit of both, right? It's like, remember what this is like. And also, things are really different, and let's talk about what that means and how you can support your daughter through this thing that's hard. It's a little bit of both. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, and keep updated and support people in the best way possible. Yeah, the times and things going on. Well, Lindsey, is there anything else that you want to sort of pass along, or, this was just a snippet of like the work and, the ways that she could help you and your loved ones. But anything else that you want to sort of pass along or say, or that you think would sort of wrap this up?
Yeah, I would definitely encourage all tween and teen girls that are out there that are curious or interested in what we've been talking about to definitely check out the ebook, the Unleash Your Girl Power ebook. It goes over so many topics. I think anyone that gets it will be pleasantly surprised with how much we go over and how much like love and care and support went into making that ebook. It really is, I think anybody that opens it can get a benefit out of it. So I would really encourage any young people to go ahead and get it.
Wonderful. And Lindsey, how can people reach you to connect with you online or other ways?
Carrier pigeon, smoke signal. I'm very old school. No.
I've heard answers like that before. That's very creative. I like that.
I am at @MissHeard Media on pretty much everything. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. TikTok for the time being until it goes away. But I think Instagram is where I'm the most active, and that's where I check messages the most regularly. So that would be the place to find me.
Great. And there's also the MissHeard Media website, so you can learn more about Lindsey and her work there. And yeah, definitely check out her work and connect with her going forward. So, well, Lindsey, on behalf of myself, on behalf of Nerds Rule Inc., I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today and tell me a little bit more about your passions and so the work you're doing in the community. It's important to sort of allow women's voices to be heard, and that'll only sort of happen if young tweens and teens sort of launching, like the next generation sort of learns that importance and sort of learns how to do that and how to find it within themselves. And it's really important and what we need in our society right now. And I thank you for that, both for the work, but also for joining us today.
Thank you. It was truly my pleasure. I appreciate it.
So thank you so much also for tuning in to our audience. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and there'll be other episodes, past ones you can listen back to, or future ones that will be through the Fix Your Crown podcast. Again, I'm Matthew Feiler. On behalf of myself, on behalf of the founder of the organization, Dr. Trista McCrae, we thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that you will continue to keep posted and updated on Nerds Rule Inc. and Fix Your Crown. You can check us out on social media, connect with us, and be sure to continue to follow the amazing work that this organization continues to pursue. Thank you so much, and I will speak to you at the next podcast. Hello, welcome